5.3 out of a 2000 Silverado. I'm gonna clean it up, paint it, re-gasket it. Ideally, I'm going to get it running on the stand here. I'm going to show you how to do some of the wiring, clean it up a little bit. Just simplify it a little bit, get all the EGR, all the crap off the intake manifold. I'll take this, just toss it. Nobody needs emissions. I'm going to pull this fan off of here. What I'm going to do is I got a really big wrench, I think it's like a 33 or something like that. I'm just going to whack it with a hammer, get that bastard off of there. And I also just vacuumed there, got some of the loose stuff off of there. And I'm going to work on unclipping stuff for the engine harness. And everything should just come apart. Okay, got this 36mm wrench there. And a couple good whacks with that hammer. And a couple spins counterclockwise and she'll come right off of there. I got the coil packs hanging off of here. I'm starting to undo some of the wiring harness, get that off there, and then I'm going to start scraping and cleaning this up. Not sure where I last showed, but I just started taking a scraper and just scraping the valve cover. You can see how much shit is just caked on from the years. So it's actually kind of satisfying. Find a really dirty spot. I'm looking at getting some gaskets this week and maybe doing a little gasket thing. I'm also thinking about popping the heads off of it and filing down the ring gap, because if I put this in something, it's definitely time to do a turbo build. I think it's time to do a turbo build. I've been playing with these motors for quite some time now and I've never done a turbo one, so I think it's time for that. Okay, so I'm back at the garage. I haven't been here in a while. Haven't been feeling myself. It's been nice cold and really didn't feel like doing anything, but I want to get this motor running on the stand. So I parted the truck out, and I know this is a good running motor. I heard it run. It has 200,000 miles on it. I have it semi taken apart to clean it up and everything like that. But I kind of want to get it to run on the stand here. And there's a few things that need to happen before I can make it run here. To make it run, there's a few things that need to happen here. So this is a 2000 Silverado motor, Sierra, whatever it is. It's a 99 to 02 wiring harness, and then there's a 03 to 07 wiring harness. Give or take, if it's a newer motor, it may have a different reluctor wheel that the crank sensor picks up. That's a 58 tooth. This is a 24. So I have a few things here that I wanted to do. Make a video showing you how to run the stock fuse box and stock computer that's in there and stock wiring harness to make it run outside the motor. So I had an idea here, and I was going to use, this is a 99 to 02 wiring harness that came with this motor. I don't have HP tuners, so I can't disable the security on the computer myself, but I have a 2003 to 07 computer. It came out of 03 motor that I had running in my RX-7. So my plan was to take the windy as shit. My plan was to take the 03 computer and put it on the older style wiring harness. The 03 computer runs a blue-green connector, and the other older style is a blue-red connector. So I have a pinout sheet here. So this one right here is 99 to 02. It's a red-blue connector. That's obviously the blue connector, that's the red connector. And then this one here is blue-green. So what I did was I went through each of the harnesses to see what was different. So the first difference I found here was pin 24. It's a ground. Pin 27 was another ground. So I could probably fix those. This one's really not super important. It's highlighted. You could probably disable that. The starter went through the computer. You could get rid of that crap. And then the other differences I found over here were that's for an 8.1, so I don't even think I have that one there. but there's a map sensor ground and a coolant temperature sensor ground. So all the blue connector is grounds, which I could probably take the circuit numbers, match them up, so just take the one pin from the harness, match to where it's supposed to go on the different computer. On this connector here is crank voltage. Mostly all the stuff here you can get basically just a motor to run, so most of the stuff that's different is like fuel pump stuff, fuel relay controls, axle controls, transmission controls. So this would probably work if you're not planning to run a transmission behind it, or run a manual or something like that, or an older style transmission. So that's most of the stuff there, but there is a few things that are concerning. I may come into that pinout sheet. There's a few other little bits that are different, and I may make that old harness work on the new computer, or I could send out the old computer that came with this motor, have the security disabled, or I'll get HB tuners to do it myself. I can show you how to run it. I wanted to show you how to do that because I never showed how to do it on this truck here. So what I did was you can find all this information at lt1swap.com. So basically this is stock computer, stock wiring, stock fuse box. The only modification was for a 4L60 to 4L80E transmission conversion, so I just added a couple wires and swapped a couple pins. But other than that, everything works fine. So I wanted to show how to do that because some people spend a lot of money on harnesses just for no reason. Spend a lot of money in general that doesn't need to be spent. So we have that little project that's probably going to get pushed off to the side. But I have over here a full computer and wiring harness for an 03 motor. This computer has a security disabled already. It was a drive-by-wire converted to drive-by-cable. So as far as I know, the only difference between the 99 to 02 motor there and this computer was a 03 converted to that. I don't think there's any other difference besides the throttle body that was already converted. Everything else should be the same. The only difference I may have, but we can confirm that, is the coil pack plug might be different. That plugs into all of these. And it looks like it is. Shit. So I'm gonna try and make this run today. Okay, so I found out the plugs are the same on the coil packs, so we're gonna come back here. I'm going to remove the turbo and put on the stock exhaust manifolds and coil packs and wires. I removed the EGR, so I have a block off plate in stock. I do have a block off plate for the EVAP. I don't think I'm going to install it. I am going to put an IAT sensor in the intake when this goes into the car that's going to go in, or truck, in its final form. Next issue at hand, I have to find the hose that connects here to the valve cover. Got to disconnect these fuel lines, plug off the vacuum line, screw the intake down because right now it's there's a gasket in there. And then the other dilemma here is the pressure side of the hose. I'm going to try to connect it to the return, or just pull the belt off temporarily. And what we have to do in the harness is obviously plug everything in. This one's a ground. These get power. I'm not sure what these two do, but I think they're switched power. These are constants, like I said. So these are constants. We got a ground. And then this is for an OBD2 port, so we can wait on that one. That I believe is switched. These are unimportant, I believe. Tack signal and crap like that. So then this went to a fuse box that I had in the car. So I could tell you right now that each pink wire fires something important. So there's 4 into 1 here and 4 into 1 here. So I think that's 1 bank and 2 bank on the injectors, just by taking a quick peek at it. This has 2 into 1 that went to a fuse box. You can see it had a little terminal there. That got turned on with key on. So I believe that was for each coil. And then this has 3 into 1. And I believe that is O2 sensor, bank 1, front 1, bank 2, front 1, and I believe the mass airflow sensor. So I don't think we need this one, but we'll hook it up, and then when it's running, we'll unplug it. And all the other plugs I just checked are there. They look correct. They look like they match all these plugs. And I made a video on how to make this redneck fuel system, so I got to remove the fuel lines here and plug in those fuel lines from there and get a battery, wire the pump and the starter on. I got to put a starter on, so got a little bit of work to do. Okay, so 15-20 minutes go by. I have this on there. Just spit on the O-ring and crank that down. We got coil packs, just 2 bolts holding them in, 3 the wires on. That takes, 2 seconds. Manifolds on, 3 bolts on each side. So there's 3 bolts here. That's open. That's open, just facing downwards. While we're on this side, this is the main power wire that goes around the motor. 13 millimeters holding it in, 13 millimeter stud there. I just need to figure out a trigger from positive from there or from the battery to the little solenoid to trigger it. Yank the belt off. 3 bolts on this side, holding the manifold on. 3 coils, 2 bolts holding that on. Screw the intake manifold down. I don't know if I need to, but I threw a vacuum cap on there. I got feed and return going to my redneck gas can to a Walbro 255. You can see how I made that on another video. It's a couple videos back. Power wires off that thing. They got to go to the battery. Bolting that in there. And I think we're ready to start throwing wiring. I got the harness and computer over here. I just have the crank sensor plugged in because that went behind the starter. So I figure I'd do that while I'm at it. So basically I'm gonna throw the wiring harness on top, plug in what needs to get plugged in, each injector, coils, like how it goes from factory. Since I went through this harness, we're missing an oil pressure sensor, I think the knock sensor, most of the transmission wires, or all of them. And we're missing evap plug. The alternator wire is cut. It's the only wire that it's cut on the harness. I don't have a plug for the alternator right now. It doesn't matter because the belt's not hooked up anyways. I gotta hook up the coolant temp sensor. That's important. Map sensor is important. Crank sensor is important. But that's really about it. So we'll get back to this. Okay, I got a lot of the wiring hooked up here. So she cranks over fine. I had to prop the battery up a little bit higher, so I'll show you what I got going on here. So I took the factory battery cable that goes to the battery there, went to a motor mount bolt, just put a little terminal with negatives together, got the ECU ground there, and I got the fuel pump ground all tied in. This is just alligator clipped positive there. It goes around factory to the starter. I just went with male ends. I believe this is the injectors and the coils. The third one here, we're gonna leave out. I'm gonna leave the third one out for now. These two I have tied together. We have, these ones are constant, these ones are switched. This test period, they could be hooked together, so we're just gonna twist them together. We have a fuel line there, a fuel power wire. So basically, if I hook all these powers together, those two, the fuel, and then these two, which is the constant and the switch, to power, and then hit the starter. It should start. All of this up. So we'll tie the power and the switch together. Hook the injectors together. So that should work. And then we just need an alligator clip there to the fuel, and then I'll try and hit the starter. Scared the fuck out of me. That started right up. Holy shit, it stinks in here. Okay, so that started right up. I really didn't expect that. I expected a couple cranks, but as soon as I hit the thing, it made like one revolution and it started right up. And I was like, holy shit. I didn't think the battery was that charged, and I didn't know if all the wires were correct, and I was kind of guessing on a couple of them. But Jesus, that fucking thing started right up. It scared the shit out of me. So I'm gonna insert another clip of it running for a little bit longer. What I was thinking about was doing, first thought, I have a muffler in the bed of a junk truck out back. I was thinking about hooking a muffler up. Next, I think I want to do is put my turbo manifold, turbo on, build the turbo lines, turbo feed. Maybe I could make a temporary crossover, and maybe we could spool a turbo. So that'd be pretty cool. I could also probably hook this up. I'm not sure if this is disabled in the tune, the mass airflow sensor, but there's for sure 0 O2 sensors hooked up to it. It's the wires for that. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I probably should relay that fuel bucket. The fuel pump's not relayed at all. Probably put the belt back on, figure out something with the power steering. And then, yeah, that's pretty sweet. I want to tear this down, paint the block, and I want to install a cam and everything like that, but I think maybe I'll just play with it until I find a chassis. Because I am building something Turbo LS, I just don't know what yet. I'm on Facebook every day looking for a chassis, and I have no luck yet. But maybe I could play with this for a little bit more. I'd like to show you how I want to get the security disabled on the other stock computer, show you how easy it actually is. Maybe I'll just pay the $70 and have it flashed, have the security disabled, and just show you how easy it is to start with the stock computer. But this wiring harness, I remember building it, took me like 6 hours. It's not pretty. It's been hacked like 6 times, and I was kind of guessing which wires actually did what, and I was right. I didn't dig too far into it. They're fairly simple. All I need is power and ground and fuel, and that's really it. So I want to start it on the other computer. That might be a video. I want to hook a turbo up to it, and I want to paint the block, throw a cam in it. I have a bunch of stuff. Maybe I'll gap the rings. Definitely head gaskets, because these ones I think are paper. It's an early motor. And then this water pump seeps, and that's why it's wet all over on this side. I want to clean the front of the block up too, replace that water pump, and like I said, I want to do the cam, so that's got to come off anyways, and that's pretty cool. Maybe there's another vacuum leak. It did seem to idle a little high. I think this just opens when you're told to open, so I think that's closed. But I think maybe check for other vacuum leaks. Maybe just needs to warm up before the idle dies, but that was cool. So that's probably going to be it for this video, and I have a couple other projects coming up. Thanks.